Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been doing this for a number of years, unfortunately on Zoom for the past 2 years, but we meet with the rising ninth graders. We want to give them some information about what course selection looks like, and that's always a really pretty well attended event, and it was on Tuesday. And then we also like to have a similar information session for other upper school parents to get similar information more tailored to upperclassmen, which is what this session is designed for, just to give you some basic information, hopefully familiarize you a little bit with the scheduling process that David goes throughout the entire summer, and also really let you know who the contact points are in case you have questions through the process. So my main, if you take one thing away from our session and conversation today, please know that this is a gradual process. It's a supportive process. We want to help the students and parents all the way through right now, where we're just looking at the course catalog, to the eventual output next August, which is the schedule coming out in MyBarstow. And so this is a process that is going to take some time, and it's gradual, and there'll be adjustments and there'll be changes, and that's perfectly fine. David, I'm sure we'll go into that here in a few minutes, but know that there's a lot of support that we give out in this process. David, myself, Scott Hill, I think will join us in a few minutes. And so we are here at the ready to assist with questions. And sometimes those questions can be general, and sometimes those questions can be very specific, about your child's individual situation. So hopefully everybody knows who I am. I'm Joe Fox, the director of middle and upper school. And David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming today. My name, as you can see on the screen, is David Kramer. I do a couple things, actually more than a couple things at the Barstow School. I'm chair of the math department, so I'm a math teacher. And in my spare time, I also am the director of academics. Primarily, that means that the bulk of that job, director of academics, handle all the scheduling for middle school and upper school, classrooms, student teachers, the whole kit and caboodle. So if you have any questions or want to talk to somebody about actually scheduling, I'm your guy. Thanks, Joe.
And Scott, I see you just joined us. We always like to ask Scott to join us for this information session, because a lot of times the nuanced questions that parents might have pertaining to their child's schedule has implications at the college level. So Scott Hill's a new face. Go ahead, Scott, if you want to introduce yourself.
Great. Well, it's great to see everyone this morning. My name is Scott Hill. I'm the director of college counseling and also the AP coordinator here at Barstow. And I've been around for a while.
So let me share my screen. We'll dive into, we're not going to try to inundate you with information. We want it to be pretty digestible for you today. I'll send you the slides and the recording of the presentation later today or tomorrow morning. But we are going to basically do a couple, I'm going to give some simple basic scheduling information. David's going to go over the course request form and the course selection process. Scott will talk a little bit about the things that we've learned over the last many years when it comes to things that can be problematic or difficult when students are navigating the 4 years of creating a schedule. And we want this to be interactive. So as you have questions, you can unmute yourself and just ask them. The chat function is also available. So if you have questions, please chat to any of us, and we will. We want this to be first and foremost an opportunity for everybody to get their questions answered. So let's talk a little bit about basic scheduling and what it looks like. And let's start with the upper school schedule, which normally is not a hot topic of conversation, but with COVID, people are wondering, what is the schedule going to look like next year? It's a good question, and we're not really ready to say yet. Before COVID, we had on Monday, all 8 class periods would meet for about 43 minutes. I'm sure you remember that. And then Tuesday through Friday, 6 of 8 classes would meet for a longer period of time, about 55 minutes. And that schedule would rotate, so the students weren't always having first hour right away. And then because of COVID, we've gone to a block schedule, classes 1 through 4 on one day, 5 through 8 the second day, 90-minute class periods. It's been an interesting change. Heard a lot of feedback and I'm getting a lot of feedback from faculty, from students, from parents. Certainly there are aspects of the block schedule that people are really enjoying. There are other aspects of the block schedule that people are not enjoying. One of the universal things that I've heard from faculty in particular is the desire for more rotation in a schedule. Seeing the same students at the same time every day can be a little bit difficult. And so far, we haven't had any issues with students having to leave early for sports or activities for the most part. But as we ramp up a little bit with spring sports, not having rotation can be a little bit difficult because the same students miss the same classes on a Tuesday, Thursday, let's say, when a lot of athletic competitions take place. So the biggest thing to know about a schedule post-COVID is that there will be 8 class periods, just like there are now, and just like there has been in the past. So that's really what needs to be known about the schedule, because we're still going to have 8 class periods in the day, and that is not changing. So that's the biggest thing to know. The second thing that I want to call people's attention to is just the course catalog and where to find it. That's a document that we send out every year. I've emailed it to you now. It lives on the resource board. It's a large document. I'm sure nobody spent their spring break, reading it cover to cover, the 50-ish pages that are put together. But it's the goal is to be a one-stop shop of all the necessary information that students need to know what courses we offer, find out what our requirements are, and we try to make it as user-friendly as possible. So it goes over, it has first, we try to put all the most important information that's general at the beginning of the document as well. So let me just stop for a minute and go over the requirements that we have at Barstow and refresh everyone's memory if you've heard this before, or if you're a new student. I saw a lot of new names, which is fantastic, on our on the participants list. We'll kind of go over what Barstow requires in terms of graduation credits. So 25 total credits are needed for graduation. Every single year, a student takes an English class. Every single year, a student takes a math class. Science requires 3 credits. That's biology in grade 9. That's physical science or chemistry in grade 10. And then students are completing 1 more credit year in science. We always like when students are taking a year-long science class for that 3rd credit. A lot of options. It could be environmental science AP, chemistry AP, physics honors, biology AP, and students will choose all of those different areas, but we require 3 units. History, also we require 3 units. That's ancient world history, grade 9, modern world history, grade 10, United States history, grade 11. And then, of course, many students will take additional history courses sophomore, junior, senior year. World language, we have a very strenuous requirement. I know that's something I hear Scott Hill say a lot when he talks to other independent school counselors around the country. We require 3 credits in the upper school. Most of our 8th grade students coming into 9th grade, a lot of you probably experience this with your child. They come into the 2nd level of a language, so Spanish 2, French 2, Chinese 2, and then ideally they're taking it out at least 3 years. So Chinese 3, Chinese 2, Chinese 3, Chinese 4, and possibly the AP level as a senior. So we require 3 units. We want students to take at least 2 years in upper school of the same language. So after 2 years, a student can switch to another language for their 3rd credit. But I know colleges always like to see I know colleges always like to see one language being taken out as far as possible. Anything you want to add to that, Scott, with the world languages?
No, that's exactly. I mean,
Okay,
you touched
great.
on it all. I think it's important that they take it out as far as they possibly can. But at the same time, we want students following their passions too, and not all students are passionate about languages. So we've got to, it's all about fit. Just like the college search and application process, we want to make sure the curriculum fits the student.
The arts, 2 credits required in the arts. All 9th graders take art fundamentals, so that's a half credit. We also require another half credit in a performing art. We have a lot of different options. It can be Barstow Singers. It can be our ensemble class. It can be acting. We consider BTVN a performing art as students are in front of the camera. And so students take the art fundamentals, half credit, another performing art, that's 1 full credit. And then throughout the 4 years of upper school, they're working towards fulfilling the 2 credit requirement. Physical education, 1 credit is given. We have a class that we offer called Strength and Conditioning. Every semester you take it, you get a half credit of PE. And then we also give a half credit for athletic participation. So student plays, girls soccer this spring, they get a half credit on their transcript for PE, or if it's boys golf or any of the sports that we offer. And that includes obviously cheerleading and dance team as well. So take part in our athletic options here. You get a half credit and it all counts towards the 1 credit. We are going to have some students that are going to be short of the 1 credit for physical education graduating this year, which we've excused in their circumstances because we understand there's been a year where they were going to play a sport maybe this fall and it wasn't an option for them. So we've made a couple changes with physical education in terms of being a little bit more lenient for a student that had plans to take part, but those plans were sidetracked because of COVID. We've also done the same thing with leadership and service learning. So there's no class with our half credit requirement in leadership and service learning. This is completing the normally 80 hours that we want students to complete in terms of community service. And the 80 hours is calculated with 20 hours each year is the expectation. Of the 20 hours, we want 18 of the hours to be non-Barstow affiliated, working in Kansas City, a little bit larger or more global is perfectly fine too. It's always amazing to see the diverse interests that students have in being very involved around a local and more global level. And then and 2 of the hours can be Barstow related, so that has many forms as well. But I see a lot of students that might help out at an athletic event, sell concessions, that kind of thing. And so that's a way that students can work towards getting their 80 hours. We have some students, they complete 80 hours and that's perfectly fine. That's great. They're done. We have some students, they complete hundreds of hours, thousands of hours. When it's all said and done, we use a software program called X2Vol. A lot of your children should be set up in X2Vol. If you're a current 9th grade student, you may not be set up because your time in upper school, we've suspended our service learning requirement. But if you talk to Ms. Zimmerman, she can definitely get you set up in X2Vol. And then once we've hopefully gotten through the pandemic and we reinstate our service learning requirements, probably on a gradual basis in terms of what's needed to graduate, taking into account we've now had over a year where students have not been required and many families have been uncomfortable completing service in the community. We will work to get students signed up, but any student that has completed hours and would like to log them can go see Ms. Zimmerman, get set up in the system and log those hours right now. And then from the last day of school, anything you do in the summer is being counted towards next year's hours. And we don't really break it down 2020, 2020. We love for students to do it that way, but we want 80 credits at least at the time of graduation. So let me pause there for a second and see if anything has come in through the chat. Don't be shy to chat us with any questions. That is a very, very fast graduation requirement and departmental requirement review. If you add up all the departmental requirements, you'll realize it doesn't get to 25 credits. That's because as students get older, they have more freedom in what they choose. We really want our students, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. The older you get, the less required courses there are, provided that you've been knocking out your graduation requirements. And we really want students delving into areas of their passion. Very common for students to take multiple world languages if that's their passion, multiple arts courses if that's their passion, multiple science, multiple English, multiple math. You can get very, very individualized as you get to be a junior and senior here at Barstow. I think it's one of the things that makes the school really special. A couple things I also want to point out to you. I think this is page 6. We have contact information with questions, but we also have these additional resources that I think you'll find helpful. So we have all the required courses by grade level. So as I mentioned, 9th graders, they're taking 5 required courses. Okay, maybe even 6 when you throw in art fundamentals. It is 6 when you throw in art fundamentals. And then, by the time you're a senior, you might only have a required English and a required math course, and that's it. So you can use this document to show you what is required, whether your student's in 10th, 11th, or 12th. The prerequisite guide by academic department. Oh, you want to take physics honors? Great. Take a look at that document. It will say what you need to take before physics. With a lot of students, maybe as a 10th grader, they say, I want to take, you know, calculus 2 on their course request form. And we, you know, they haven't taken calculus, they haven't taken pre-calculus yet. So we have to back up and say, no, there's some courses to take before you get to, you know, some of the most challenging courses that we offer. And the other thing I want to point your attention to, under each department where we list the courses that we offer, we put in a flow chart. And English is fairly simplified. Let's go to like a math, which is a lot more complicated here. This is to give students and parents an idea of the course tracks that we offer here, what students can take. The dark arrows indicate pretty commonly trafficked options that students utilize. So Algebra 1 to Geometry to Algebra 2 honors to pre-calculus honors. But the light arrows indicate all the possible options that students have going from course to course. And you can see there in math in particular, we have so many options for students. So when we talk about nuance and we talk about what's right and finding a good academic fit for students, this is a lot of what we mean in the conversations that we had. All right, let me stop sharing my screen. That's pretty much most of the information that I wanted to share in terms of what our graduation requirements are, our departmental requirements, and just point out a couple things on the course catalog that as you're taking in this information and then also in the future talking with your student about the courses they want to take, you'll know where the information is living. David, you want to take it from there and talk a little bit about the scheduling process?
Sure. The short version is it's going to be the same as last year, but that's not entirely helpful. So let me stretch that out a little bit. So the scheduling process at Barstow School, I won't say it's unique, but it's rare in that I rebuild the schedule from scratch every year over the summer. We don't have a timetable. We don't have the schedule already built where there's conflicts already built in before people even make a choice. We don't do that. Most schools do. Certainly universities and colleges do. Instead, we take all the course requests. I take all the course requests and I try to build the schedule section by section to keep the number of conflicts to an absolute minimum. And I do that every summer. Now, in order to get to that point, let's back up a little bit. To help students and their families make good choices, part of the process involves recommendations from their current teachers. So in most of the core classes, and actually in most classes, frankly, there's at least a conversation where a teacher says to the student, this is what you should probably expect to take next year. And some teachers maybe formalize that a little more and put in their comments on the report card, but certainly all the teachers behind the scenes have filled out recommendations for all their students in a spreadsheet that we manage. And then I've almost completed it, I take all of those recommendations, all of them, and I put them in one at a time into my Barstow behind the scenes. So let me show you what I'm talking about. When your child logs in, and I have arbitrarily selected Sage Homes just to indicate where you should look. When your child logs in, they will have a screen that has some but not all of these tabs. They will have a tab that says course requests. It is not active for studentship because we're not ready. If the student then clicks on course requests, well, there's nothing here because we haven't activated for students. But if they click on it, what they will see is something like this. To protect Sage's privacy and also the fact that she's graduating and won't be taking classes here next year, we have a fictional student in the system that we keep around for things, well, just like this. So we can do examples. So your child will log in, they will hit the course request tab, they'll be taken to a page very much like this. And you'll notice if you scroll down on the right-hand side, here are all the recommendations put in one at a time by yours truly. And you'll notice that some of these recommendations might look a little funky. You know, like, well, modern world history, sure, English 10 honors, that makes sense. But if you're paying attention as I scroll through, it looks like there's 2 math courses. What's all that about? Or maybe there's a chemistry honors and a physical science? That doesn't sound right. For some students, less than half certainly, the teacher's best recommendation is really to leave it up to the student and their family. They're right on the borderline. It's not clear whether or not the student would be more successful in Algebra 2 College Prep or Algebra 2 Honors. So if you see something like this, if your child sees something like this, but it appears that they're recommended to 2 courses simultaneously, if they haven't already had a conversation with the teacher, it's time to have one and get better information. We like to leave that up to parents and students from time to time, because as Scott's going to talk about later, this choice is not made in a vacuum. You don't choose Algebra 2 college prep and Algebra 2 honors all by itself, ignoring all other factors. Now, keep in mind that some of the recommendations which you see here say English 10 honors. Some of those recommendations are exactly that. They are only recommendations. So if you and your kid decide, you know what, we'd rather take English 10 college prep, that's fine. However, and this is a big however, some of these recommendations do carry some weight. For example, AP World History. You can only enroll in that course if you have a teacher recommendation. So if this student, MS student, if this student submitted a course request and they had AP World History as a request, I would reject it. And I'd write them an email, and it's a hassle. And so with love in my heart, please, 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 when you take a look at the recommendations, check them up against the course catalog, check against prerequisites, so that when you finalize course requests, you've already had all the conversations you need with faculty, with us, with your kid, to make sure everything goes where it needs to go. So the recommended courses, which are already sitting here, the student will simply add courses using this plus sign. Incidentally, all of this business here will be in a video recorded separately by itself, mostly for the use of a student, so that it's very clean on how they do this. But of course, this is not the entire list of courses that a student might want to take. You know, this student will pick a math course, and they'll pick an English course and a history course and so on, but then they still want to take painting, or they want to take artificial intelligence, or they want to take, you know, something else. They all live here. Everything we offer lives over here. So say they want to pick up a drawing class. As you can see, we have a robust set of offerings in the arts. And so scroll through, find drawing, off you pop. All right. So when a family and a student agree on course requests, this is the first place you go and enter everything in. It is also your only resource for finding out what course recommendations are, unless you want to go teacher by teacher, one at a time, which we have no problem with. But they're all here waiting for you to see. So all the course requests go here to build a database for my actual scheduling software. But there's a problem. When students fill out their course requests, they're specifying their math, their English, their history, their science, their language, and then electives. And there's no good way to prioritize electives using this interface. This interface is really good for building a database, but it doesn't tell me what order I should prioritize elective choices. As you likely remember from last year, we require students to pick 8 different options for elective courses. And many students are really reluctant to pick more than the ones that they really want. Some students will only put in 2, and then there's an email back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's a hassle. I sometimes actually do need all 8, especially as Joe mentioned, just last year. We won't name names, but we had an incoming 10th grader who signed up for AP Bio, AP Physics, Quantum Mechanics, AP Calc 2, and who knows what else. Not eligible for any of those classes, not a one. And so, yeah, I needed some other choices. And so, yeah, we need 8 choices. All right, so you enter your course request here. That builds a database, and then there will be a Google form, 2021, 2022, I'll change the date, where you also submit not only your course requests, but how many free periods, how many study halls that you'd like to take. And this builds it in a way, this collects the requests in a way that it prioritizes the elective requests so I can do the best job possible of putting the right electives in the right place. That's a lot of information. That is an information dump. All of this will be summarized again, probably a little more eloquently, in a single video, which will be a one-stop resource for how you actually do the process. A couple of other things about course requests that I just want to put out there while I have the microphone for a second. there is a school of thought amongst some families and some students to put off requirements until the senior year. You know, they want to build a sparkling sophomore resume and they don't want to contaminate it with some arts class. And that physical education will just have to wait because we have to worry about, you know, and I get it and I understand that. And I'm going to give you a glass half empty and a glass half full argument here. The glass half empty is every year without fail. I've been in this 14 years, y'all. Every year without fail, I get seniors who come in and they still need to fulfill graduation requirements, and it totally hoses their schedule. Simple as that. And I warn everybody every chance I get. It still happens every year. I have a senior who chose not to take performing arts till their senior year, and then it wipes them out. We have to graduate them. We have to get them in that class. Now they can't take, you name it, right? Now they can't take AP Human Geography. You know, they can't be in an AP class because they didn't take care of business. So if you put off the performing arts requirement, that's a big one. If you put off the physical education requirement, that's a big one. If you delay your science course until your senior year, which is a very strange choice in my opinion. We have some students who want to not take science as a junior and then take it as a senior. That can mess you up. So the glass half empty is, you know, bad things can happen, but here's a glass half full. And I hope this is convincing. We have seniors who finally do take that performing arts and they say, I love this. I wish so much I had started earlier. Right? We have that senior who finally gets on the baseball team. They go, I had no idea how much I love baseball. I wish I'd been playing all 4 years. That's glass half full. I think there was one other thing I wanted to call your attention to with regard to, oh yeah, scheduling. This is my sign off. As you likely know, we have a lot of flexibility in the schedule at Barstow School. So there's a lot of choices to be made. There's a lot of conversations to be had. There's a lot of forms to fill out, but you're going to be okay. In that, let's say we start the year off and the schedule just isn't working the way you want. The classes aren't really going like you thought they would. Chances are pretty good we can fix it. Just this week, though this is unusual, just this week, I'm making changes to year-long courses. We got 7 weeks to go, and I'm still making changes to student schedules in order to help them out. We have that kind of flexibility. That's one big advantage of rebuilding the schedule every summer has, is we know how to build it so that if we need to change something, we can get the job done. All right, that's enough for me. Any questions, Joe?
Nothing yet, but don't be shy in chatting to us. You know, one of the things you mentioned, David, on Tuesday, I just wanted to reiterate all the course recommendations that you saw in My Barstow and where the courses are listed and how students choose them is only available through the student access portal. So as a parent, when you log into My Barstow, you will not see course recommendations and you will not see you know, the interface that David was showing. So if you are interested and you want to work with your child, you're going to have them log in and you'll view what they've been recommended for and select courses through their login through My Barstow. So I just wanted to make that clear.
By the way, the reason why we do that is so that we don't get two sets of conflicting requests.
Exactly. And then the other thing I was going to mention, if I can remember it quickly. Oh, you know, at the risk of having a reputation of a guy that says no a lot, right? I love to say yes. And so it always is too bad when we have to tell a junior or senior, a senior in particular, no, they really want to take, I don't know, quantum physics, but they haven't taken a performing art. And so we really try, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. I didn't get a chance last summer, but I certainly will this summer. You know, every summer in the mail, we mail a transcript to your house, what it looks like, so you get a clean copy. And I put a little note on it for each student that says, everything looks good. Your graduation requirements have all been fulfilled. Nice work, Mr. Fox. Or it would say, great job in 9th grade. Remember, you still need your PE and your performing art, or you still need 1.5 art credit, or whatever it might be. And so the idea is that every summer for at least 3 years coming into your senior year, you're getting a series of reminders not to put off the graduation requirements that David mentioned, because it's always, as juniors and seniors, our students know the deal. They know what's going on. They have a lot of autonomy in what they want to take, and it's too bad to say, boy, I know you want to take this course, but because you've delayed this process in some ways, you have to take this course instead. Scott, let's turn it over to you. Scott's going to talk. Well, I really just gave Scott the floor. I said, Scott, go ahead and just talk about anything you want to related to college counseling, and maybe touch on some nuances of scheduling. So I'll just give you the floor and let you go.
I'll tell you what, first I'd like to say we're awful lucky to have Dr. Kramer here. He's a wonderful teacher, certainly, but the flexibility when he's creating the schedule and what we see at Barstow is truly unique. If you probably have neighbors or family members, friends that attend public schools, but boy, when you fill out your schedule in March or April of the year prior in a public school, that does not change. It doesn't change over the summer, what you took, what in the fall. And here we're adjusting because, we want to stretch the students. And sometimes while stretching students, you have to adjust their schedule, which is fine. Just to recap, we offer 3 levels of coursework here at Barstow. We offer college prep, honors, and advanced placement / honors college. And the thing is, and we have students here at Barstow that are at all levels, and that's fine. We have some students that take college prep all 4 years. That's not a problem. We have students that mix it up with college prep and honors. And then we have students that are pretty much on the AP track and they're taking all honors and AP. Honors college is at the same level as AP. That's Barstow Super Designation. So we have Barstow classes that AP is trademarked by the College Board. And so teachers have to go through an AP audit process. Well, we have classes here at Barstow taught by incredible faculty that have just as much rigor as AP. And that's why we designate them HC on the transcript, which is honors college, with the same weight as an AP. So honors and AP do have more weight into the GPA. Let's see here. We like for students to challenge themselves when appropriate. So the thing is, I think Joe mentioned earlier, we don't want a student taking all APs if it's not appropriate, or an honors class. But again, we like to stretch the students. We know how important rigor is in this process. It is one of the top college admission factors. GPA is the #1 college admission factor. Rigor is right there behind it. Is a student taking advantage of what their high school has to offer? That is rigor. And I think rigor is going to play even a more important role than it already does, and it's pretty important. But with most schools going test optional colleges due to the pandemic, then if a student does not submit test scores as a part of their file, they're going to highly scrutinize that high school transcript, looking at the GPA, the courses the student took, their leadership, extracurricular activities, letters of rec, college essays, everything else that goes into the college search and application process. So that rigor is very important. And Joe had touched on, I think, the world languages here at Barstow, that graduation required is pretty stringent. Right now, since you're an upper school parent, they're already in the mix of that. So I'm sure that if you have any problems, you can reach out. But the thing is, we want students to graduate from Barstow and say, hey, I was able to take the classes I wanted to take. We don't want a student, walking away from the process saying, Mr. Hill wanted me to take all these courses and I never got a chance to take the courses that I would have loved to have taken. So, it's a balance. We will certainly, the student's interest plays an important role in that. And then we help build their schedule. Let's see, language, math, pitfalls. I think sometimes, I don't know, I don't think it was mentioned, the BGO, Barstow Global Online. Students take coursework in the summertime. Sometimes it's honors, sometimes it's AP. So we just want to make sure. I think the pitfall I saw with a few students, I think, Joe, did we have about 25 or 30 enrolled last summer as a part of BGO? And that was the first summer that we had BGO. It used to be the Hybrid Learning Consortium prior to that. And we just want to make sure, I think sometimes students were biting off a little bit too much, or maybe they enrolled in the BGO course in the summer, and then they didn't complete it in the summer. And then you get into the fall and spring where they're usually taking a pretty heavy load, and it was hard for them to complete that early enrollment in the summer. So if you're going to take a BGO course, my recommendation is to complete it in the summertime prior to the school year starting. Let's see, mention that. No, I don't think I have anything else. I think we kind of covered everything else, Joe.
Great. I have a chat question that came in. Do communication arts classes count for the performing art credit? Which is an excellent question. We try to delineate it as clearly as we can. And so if I scroll to the arts area of the course catalog, we have the art fundamentals that's required. We have fine arts courses, and we have, obviously a ton of choices. Here are all the performing art options that satisfy the performing art requirement. And so, as you can see, we have year-long courses, we have semester-long courses, students also working with Bob Kohler through performance, through the musical, through acting, through theater production, and staging of the productions also get credit for the performing art. One thing that is not on this list is our video journalism BTVN class that we do count as a performing art. That's why it has a little asterisk next to it, and it says completion of BTVN satisfies the half credit. So that's the only, this BTVN course does, if a student takes it, they have satisfied this 0.5 performing art credit. But all of the classes that you see in either fine arts, performing arts, or communication arts, they're all counting towards the 2 credit requirement total in the general category of the arts. So hopefully that provides a little bit of clarification. Scott Hill, question for you. Should we still plan to take the ACT since the schools are not requiring the test right now?
Yes, in fact, I made a note. I was gonna loop back around to that. Great question. The thing is, I think schools are going test optional, but having a strong test score in the student's file is going to give them the most flexibility when they apply. For example, this year's seniors, I don't think we did have some test center closures, and it affected certainly our timeline. But I don't think there was a senior that says, "I wish I could have taken an SAT or ACT, and I did not have the opportunity." So here in the Midwest, we were kind of blessed, I would say, compared to places like California, where a lot of the students, New York, were completely locked out of standardized testing. So having a strong test score in the file will give the student the most flexibility, but depending on the institutions they're applying to, the example I was going to give is maybe a senior applied to 12 schools, 8 schools they submitted a test score to, and maybe 4 schools they did not. So it's not all or nothing. It really depends on the school, and that's where the students really lean heavily on me and my associate, Kaylin, because we know the test range profile of the schools. So they'll ask me, I've got a 31 ACT. Should I apply test optional to UChicago? Most definitely. Because if a student doesn't have a 34 or higher typically for UChicago, they should go test optional. If they're applying to the University of Missouri and they have a 31, then yes, we want to supply the test score to Mizzou. So it really depends on the institution. So yes, making sure that you grab that tutor in between the first and second administration on the ACT. If you're going to work with a tutor, we've got a fantastic tutor that our family's been working with. And, saying that, yeah, having that test score, whether it's the ACT or SAT, I think is important.
Great. That's a lot. Hopefully it hasn't been, so much information that it's been overwhelming this morning. We've pretty much hit on most of the things we wanted to make sure we stress to you all. Scott mentioned the Barstow Global online courses. Let me just touch on that for one more minute. It's a new program that we started last year. We used to have an online provider called the Hybrid Learning Consortium. That was more synchronous in nature. What I mean by that is teacher and student working together very regularly, multiple times each week. They were getting together for communication. Barstow Global Online is much more asynchronous in nature. What I mean by that is there's not the same amount of teacher contact that you would get certainly here at Barstow on a day-to-day basis in the classroom. The information is provided in portals, in sections, and students work through it at their own speed. And so it can be great for a student that is very self-motivated and wants to work at their own pace, either very quickly or more slowly. But I want you to know that the difference in delivery does exist, and it's great for some students and maybe not so great for other students. And a lot of our students are trying to take an AP course over the summer, maybe add a little bit more rigor to their schedule. or take a math class over the summer to try to advance themselves the next academic year to the next level of a math course. So I always talk to students on the front end of taking a course, or I try to get to as many of them as possible. Just let them know, it's a real class. If it's a math class, you're going to do a year's worth of content in a short amount of time. And it is going on the transcript. You are getting a grade. It will be factored into the GPA. For some students, fantastic. They really are motivated to do well. They have the time this summer to commit and get it all done. It works beautifully. We don't want to see as a student that thinks they can do it, but they also have debate camp and they also are doing this and they're also working 40 hours a week here. And they think they'll have time to do the summer math class. And then all of a sudden it's the middle of July and they've only got 10% of the class done and it can get a little difficult. So I always talk about motivation with students, making sure they're committed to it. We don't want to put a grade on their transcript that's not a true reflection of their abilities at that time. Students so we've had that happen before. We've had some students that have had to withdraw from the class before, which is too bad because it's kind of a waste of money from the family enrolling in the course. This is not to scare you away from taking BGO courses, by the way. We've had many students I'd say of the 20 to 25 we had take classes last summer, I'd say the 75 to 80% of them did fantastic. So there is a high success rate, but I always like to make sure I'm clear about what the potential pitfalls might be. Let's see. I have a couple questions that have come through on the chat line here. When should students have courses entered into the system? Great question. Talk a little bit about timeline. That's one of the things we haven't touched on yet that we wanted to. So we're still we've sent out the course catalog. I'm sure it's been on the back of students' minds. David, Scott, myself, we start meeting with students during lunch in both an in-person and on-campus format. I'm meeting with the 9th graders. We tend to give the information to the 9th graders first because they're going through the process for the first time. But certainly over the next 2 weeks, we're getting in front of students in each grade level. We kind of have, as they get to be upperclassmen, we have more of a grade level discussion. Say, course selection is coming out. David creates a video about how to input the courses in My Barstow and through the Google form. We send that out. And that'll probably, let's say in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, we'll open up the portal. Students will actually go through the process. Dr. Kramer will be sending emails with the video saying the process is open. Please complete it by a certain date. And we hope students are attentive to that, and we try to get them to complete it and turn it in. And then we can be, last year was particularly difficult. Everyone was completely online. I'm sure it will be equally challenging this year. We still have many people online in our current format. So we play we play this game through the end of the year where we're trying to get everybody's course request in, and then David really does his magic over the summertime, building the schedule from scratch. And so the course, we would hope in the next month, everything's been done from a course request standpoint from the student's perspective. But that's just a submission. Then there's changes of minds. There's conversations with maybe Scott Hill over the summer, particularly if you're a junior or senior parent. And so then there's this email trail that occurs between, your family and maybe Dr. Kramer, myself, and Scott about, changes you want to make to what you submitted, which is perfectly fine.
Hey, Joe, real quick regarding a due date, which I appreciate, and we will have one. We'll have a deadline for course requests. But the reality is, I scheduled students last year I never got course requests from.
That's true.
I mean, deadlines, the vast majority of the people, we get them in, and that might seem impossible, to people on this on the Zoom session. Now, of course, it wasn't a surprise, but after about the 15th, 16th email and phone call, I realized it just wasn't coming. So my next step is, well, here's my best guess. What do you think? And I never heard back from that either, but evidently it's going okay.
And a lot of families or a lot of students, certainly after they meet with their advisor, talk with their parents, see what the recommendations are from the teachers, they'll stop by the office or Zoom me, and we'll go over their schedule based on their GPA and what based on their interests, and I put my 2 cents in on what they should be taking. So I see one chat that came in that said, what amount of extracurriculars a student should shoot for in terms of building a strong college resume, in-depth involvement in 3 or 4 activities rising to a leadership position is what we like to see. The expectation, colleges tell me, we have 135 colleges visit Barstow every year. At a smaller high school like Barstow, you know what I'm saying, there are more leadership positions to go around, so they do want to see leadership. A little bit too, kind of off the scheduling, but kind of what we saw this year in the process. You know, saying it's very important coming from a well-resourced school like Barstow that students are having those cross-cultural experiences and, you know, the impact they're having with diversity, equity, and inclusion in their community. That is definitely the top tier colleges are asking those questions and short answers. And we want our students to be prepared and be able to answer that with genuine activities. So, and then there was one also question I saw come in, you know, in regards to, you know, how many honors and AP should a student be taking, that kind of thing. That's kind of more of an individual discussion, but, you know, that's one thing I think I saw, Joe. I usually tout that you always put my cell phone out there. I think that's maybe my office phone on the contact information, but I wasn't sure. But please reach out to me if you have that question about top tier colleges and how many honors and AP, and I'd be happy to text you or talk to you in person. But my cell phone is 816-916-7835. But no, that's a great question. I mean, we want those students to be, you know, Kaylin works with each student that wants to construct a resume, mock interviews, that kind of thing. We had another wonderful year in college admissions. We're gonna tag that in this presentation. 145 different institutions our students were accepted to, and really did well in the most competitive year of college admissions ever. So we're pretty pleased.
I was reviewing the video from Tuesday, and Scott started and he said, if you get one thing out of today's session, I want it to be my cell phone number. And then I realized that his cell phone number was not given the entire rest.
Yeah, I noticed it too. That was the one thing I guaranteed from that presentation. And then
so you should be happy to know that you're talking about the course catalog, which does have your office number in it.
Yes.
But the slides that I will email to you all afterwards, I did add Scott Hill's cell phone number so he can make good on his promise that if you get one thing out of today, you'll get his cell phone number. People are warming up here on the chat line. We're getting some questions in. Scott, when should a student take the first ACT? And it says PSAT, but maybe you can just go over general timeline for testing.
Okay. And you know what? We were pretty lucky at Barstow this year because most high schools had to adjust that due to the pandemic. But we kind of powered through. We had freshman year, there is no testing. You know, maybe a student here or there has an AP test, but that's pretty rare. Sophomore year, we'll have pre-ACT, which is the practice ACT, and the PSAT. Sorry, I'm jumping in for 1 second. You said sophomore year, there is no testing, but you meant freshman year. There is no testing. Yeah, I'm sorry. Freshman, thanks for correcting me. Freshman year, there is no testing, although a student might have an AP depending on their curriculum. Sophomore year, pre-ACT, which is the practice ACT, and the PSAT, which is the practice SAT. That's sophomore year, okay? Then they come back junior year and they take the PSAT a second time, and that's for national merit consideration. And that's in October of the junior year, okay? So a student typically would take their first official exam. If they're taking the pre-ACT in the sophomore year and the PSAT in the sophomore year, usually the summer after sophomore year, they'll take the first ACT test, okay? And we you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times parents are eager to have their son or daughter working with a tutor prior to the first administration, that summertime test, but we prefer that students really prepare on their own based on their pre-ACT score report, and they get their test booklet back. They prep on their own for that first ACT summer after sophomore year, and then usually working with a tutor works best between the first and second administration.
Great, thank you. What is the drop policy for a student who isn't sure if the summer class would be appropriate? Kelly Crockett operates and runs our BGO classes. That's more her call. I know it is. I can't speak to exactly what the drop date of the class would be from a financial standpoint. That's where Scott, myself, and David can insert ourselves from the transcript perspective. We always want to do what's right by the student in most cases. If a student there's been situations in the past where a student maybe hasn't logged in at all. They're on their way to an F in whatever summer course that they've signed up for. And rather than publish an F on the transcript, which would be, not a great situation, we just withdraw them from the course, drop them, withdraw them, well in advance. So we have the power to do that, but Kelly would be a great person to email for specifics about what she has. You sign up. It's kind of like going to the grocery store. You go to the website, you pick your class, you put it in your basket, you check out. And I'm not sure if there's a refund date or a drop date to, once you go through that process. So this presentation slides that I'm going to send you will have a link to BGO that should have all the information in there.
Hey, Joe,
Yep,
if I can jump in real quick.
please.
2 cents on the BGO courses, especially with regards to math, because that's where I have the most experience. Joe already talked about how motivation of the student is the primary indicator of success in a BGO course, and of course he's right. I want to talk a little bit more about motivation from a slightly different angle. If a kid wants to take a BGO course, especially a summer math course, motivation, I think, is really also going to speak to what their future looks like. Let me explain. If a student is taking a math course because they want to keep up with their friends, regardless of how they actually feel about mathematics or how they actually do in mathematics, if their primary motivation is they just want to be in the same classroom as their buddies next year, that can catch up to them, because eventually they're going to get to a class a year faster than probably they should be. They're going to walk into AP Calculus as a junior instead of a senior. And I've seen it every now and then. And I don't want to badmouth any summer work, because it's a great thing. It really is. But I think the phrase we'd like to use around here is students speed up, slow down. They speed up, take a math course over the summer, and then they get to their junior or senior year, and they're looking for math courses they can take. So that's the glass half empty. The glass half full is, as Joe said, the majority of people who take our summer courses, not only they do a great job, but they're doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it because they like math and they want to take more and they want to learn more. And of course, give me all those students. Give me all those students all the time. Just be careful. If the motivation is 1, to keep up with your buddies, or 2, because you think it looks good on a resume, junior or senior year, you might be in for a shock. All right, that's it.
Good question here. You can see I'm chuckling before I read it. When do you anticipate knowing the general start and end time of school? Will it be likely staying the same? That's a difficult question for me to answer in a meeting like this, just because the scope of the conversation is so much greater than middle and upper school. And we talk about an all school philosophy. Do I have thoughts? Of course, I have thoughts on everything, believe me. A couple of my general thoughts. I think the students have done well starting a little bit later in the day. I've seen students that are more, I've heard from faculty that students are a little bit more active and energetic starting at 8:40, starting at 8:45 when we do instead of the prior 8 o'clock. I've seen traffic solutions. I won't say solutions. I've seen traffic improvements in terms of having a little bit more of a staggered start. Let's talk about some cons that I've seen. I've seen some parents that have to make 2 trips through the circle because 45 minutes is a long time in terms of a staggered start. Athletics starting this spring, regardless of whether it's a home or away contest, when we have a 4 o'clock end day to our academic day, students are going to be missing a lot of class, because even if the home baseball game starts at 4 p.m., which a lot of them do or have in the past, students have to be dismissed at 3 o'clock, 3:15, go get ready, warm up. That's just for a home game. If it's an away game, now you're now you're pushing that time even further back. And so I think there's pros and cons to both. I think that some sort of staggered start I would be a proponent of, in terms of maybe not 45 minutes, but some sort of a time frame of 20 to 30 in there somewhere. But more to come on that, because I think it's a great question, but we have to have a much bigger all school conversation, and I don't want to. It won't be me that's that's coming up with the solution. Yes, I think we've covered most of the questions at this point. We, like I said at the beginning, we are here. We want to be supportive. We want to be helpful. As students go through this process, do not hesitate to contact us. And like I said, this is a gradual process that will start. It starts now and it goes through August and then really continues past August as students get into their schedule and then start taking classes, and will adjust and make changes. So God bless Dr. Kramer. He starts the process now. And as he said, the process from last year is still continuing even through right now. He really never gets a break. And so we're here to help. We hope this has been helpful. We'll post the recordings and email the slides. And I hope everybody had a wonderful spring break, and thank you for coming back this week and taking part in this conversation with us. Take care.
Please
Thanks,
reach out anytime.